The epic hiking. It all started when my family and I had been planning on doing a road trip to a famous mountain near Rosarito, Baja California, several weeks ago. Our goal was to take a weekend and visit the Coronel Hill, which is very known for its altitude. Thus, many people had hiked and reached to the top, gazing at the point of view they have from the surroundings and sea. Once our plan had been taking place, we got into the car and without a doubt, we start our trip. Before continuing telling this story, I had forgotten to mention that my family isn't a very working out fit family. So during our hiking, they had been complaining and being in a negative mood with bad vibes and almost ruining the trip because they had enough. However, in many occasions, me and my best friend Andrew were persuading them to continue. Obviously, because we were always workout and could resist the punish from the mountain. We also did not give up as long as we had experience knowing the mountain from its top and learn how to hike it. So even with the bad attitude, I was optimistic and believed that at the end we would have fun and enjoy the moment. As I mentioned before, I was with my best friend Andrew. Andrew is very social. He's always talking, making conversation, and that day was no different. He even fell because he was contemplating the view of the beach while we were talking about how beautiful the sunset was and how high we were. That day, the weather was not bad. You had the sun, some colorful clouds, and due to that, plus the physical activity, we were we were always in constant hydration, drinking lots of water, and had been trying to prevent dehydration. Luckily, we spent all of our water and we were halfway through. That's when Andrew and I started to get mad because the path we chose to hike was the right one, which means it was the shortest but most difficult to reach to the top. My mom and dad were doing at their step because of their age, even though they were enjoying 100%. We were having a good time up there. Andrew's family were talking with my parents about how they needed to start working out more so they could make that hike easily. We spent one hour and 40 minutes to finally get to the top. Um, in that path, we made some stops to catch breath, and we also passed by dangerous routes, so we had to move casually and slower. But at the end, we made it, and all the effort, sweat, anger, and fatigue were worth it. The view was perfect. We saw the pretty sun and the blue beach at its most dancing point, and in the we couldn't with our lives. We were exhausted, and all we asked were some delicious food and more water to relax. But we were still missing going down the hill, and that was horrible because we had no energy, so we were forced to go slower. But it was easy to go downhill than to climb. At the end of the day, uh, we had en- I had earned a lesson. The way you act might only affect you, nor the others, unless they are good vibes. At the end, Andrew's mother taught us that after the storm passes, the sun will always appears again, and we were finally eating tacos happily and safely. And we started laughing about all the things that happened to us in that trip.
The anecdote I'm going to narrate it's named The Trip of Our Lives. At the beginning of the summer of 2019, I was very stubborn about doing academic exchanges around the world, but the responsibility that I needed to take from me to leave was a very big one. My parents had decided to let me go only if I went with a friend or my oldest brother. I acted very childish because my pride was so high and the feeling that my parents didn't support me or trust me in the way I wanted them to believe in me upset me. The way I act after that was so annoying, but in the same way, part of me was concentrated on making them understand me. For several weeks I was a little hysterical and sad, but at the end of May I had decided to be a grown up and be the one who decided about the future I wanted. Several days later I talked to them and made them realize I needed that trip to be made and that I needed to do it all by myself so I could be in the world on my own and see through my actions and take responsibility about them. After a lot of thinking, they agreed to let me go to CDMX for 2 weeks because the exchange was about interacting with people around the world and be able to open with all of them. And after that, we were going to Palm Springs for another 2 weeks. The Palm Springs trip was basically to socialize with people of my age, but also to know how to talk with older people and get to know them so that in the future we will want to take a deal, get a job, or be business associates, learn to interact with them. The interesting part of the whole trip had started when I went to Mexico City and began to meet new people. My group of friends was Cassandra, Carolina, Ruben, Jesus, and Michelle. We met the first week and made a great connection because we had a lot in common. The second week, we met an important businessman, and the unique part here is that one of the business associates of the Humex Museum said how good I was having a conversation with one of his friends. Manuel, the Humex associate, came over to ask me my name and started to talk about his business outside the museum and how he enjoys life doing what he likes. It seemed different to him how I wasn't embarrassing to ask him unusual things. Thanks to the fact that I was outgoing with him, he invited me to spend 2 days with him and show me what he did every day. I agreed, but throughout the day I introduced him to Ruben, because he is a fanatic of museums and also likes the kind of lifestyle I had. He accepted to have him as a second guest. I was learning a lot from him, and the fact that I met a person who is that important in Mexico City cultural society was amazing. Moving forward, when we arrived in Palm Springs, the first 3 days were so relaxing. The hotel that we stayed in was the Marriott, and it had 8 amazing pools. And that night, we could watch a movie from the pool. So it was like a movie night, and they gave us popcorn and candy and ate it in there. Those days were super relaxing. They had an amazing vibe in the hotel, and I met important people from the part of the United States. But it wasn't as fun and unique as the experience of Mexico.
The anecdote that I'm going to narrate it's named by the tournament and it goes like this. One time at the city of Paraguay, I was on a family trip summer vacation. I was spending time with the family I had there and stayed almost a month every year. When we were talking about sports, it becomes a delicate topic in the family. They have every competitive mood especially with soccer, and because of that, we like to play it in the summer, especially because our neighbors are as competitive as we are. So every year we make a tournament with all the neighbors and rent a local football field, and between us play the PAM tournament. We named it after the initials of each founding family. This tournament had been very popular in our inner circle of friends, and because of that, we always have had a very crowded cheering host. And for the same reason, we always like to have a very entertaining game and make it tight so we have more emotion in the match. So when the day came, we were ready to enjoy the game. In the beginning, we were making the list of the teams that were going to be a match. We got an unexpected visitor team called by the name Petra. They already knew the rules, so we had wanted it to be alert and fast so that we could win the tournament. But what we didn't know is that they were very aggressive and they were total strangers. But because we have ethics and we weren't going to neglect the entrance of the new team, so in the kindness of everyone, we allowed them to play with us. We had been very optimistic about that they were going to be a very friendly team, so that every year they would like to come and make it a tradition for them like it is for us. But when the tension started to appear, we knew something was wrong. In the first round, my family won it. We were a very powerful team. We were striking with force but without cheating. Hours later, in the third round, we needed to play against the Petra team. It was a very new team, so we wanted to be patient but in alert mood, so that nothing will come as a surprise and still win the tournament. But what we didn't know is that they were a very aggressive and win-back team with an offensive attitude, and they were not acting in a friendly way. The game was a very tight one, and despite our effort, we did not see their moves coming. We lost that round, but by goal difference, we went to the semifinal. After 2 rounds later, we were very tired and hungry. It was starting to be late, but for an act of God, our destiny, we were meant to match again. And before we started to play, they yelled at us that they were going to win for the second time. Their confidence was so high that they had started to lose because they were lowered their guard. And in the end, we were the ones who won the match. With effort and constant, everything is possible. And that day, I proved it to myself that in teamwork, the chances of getting something right are bigger. We didn't win first place, but second place with respect and honor. We triumphed as a family. The Petra team was ashamed of their behavior and apologized to all of us. And so we didn't have grudges against them. They invited us to a very delicious parrillada that includes bread and milk over some hard bananas and pria caldo, the classic Paraguayan dish.